After your experience in the lands of Avalon, how would you personally explain what's the difference between Glastonbury and Avalon?
There's probably something about Avalon that I have a connection with because whenever see now I'm feeling it. I'm very emotional when you talk about Avalon. There's something in the Arthurian stories. I think these stories have been in my life since either I was a child or as I was growing up because either I was watching them, reading little bits, and also I think stories of fairies, the idea of fairies. I grew up with Enid Blyton, and there's a lot of fairy stories and all that. So there's a part of my life that has a lot of these things inside. Even as an adult, right? When we watch movies and all this, I feel I'm very drawn to stories of the past and stories of that age. Fantasy, there's something about stories like Lord of the Rings, Hobbits, dragons, all this, right? That has been a very big part of my life somehow, and that I connect with. Actually, the last few days, I've been trying to figure out what is it about these stories that's pulling me or drawing me, or that maybe I'm trying to resolve in some ways so that I can maybe either free it, let it go, and move.
Can you share a story that feels particularly resonant for what you're experiencing or what you have experienced recently?
The main story of Camelot, or what you hear of Camelot, right? Which is the idea of like the Knights of the Round Table searching for the Grail, and the idea of, I don't know whether it's the ideal relationship, the ideal romance that's there, because there's so much in it, right? There's the idea of honor, there's the idea of commitment, there's the idea of, or rather concept, right? This wrapped up in these stories, idea of love. And maybe I've been thinking of, I know there are two things in my life that I think is romance, and that's a side of romance is tragedy. I think those are the things that seem to be surfacing. And strangely, I actually forgot about, right, the endings of the story where, because it's always been very easy, right, whether Arthur dies or he doesn't die, and where he ends up or his body ends up in Avalon. I don't know whether that is about the journey and going home. And in that situation, then going home is about where is home. It's so easy, right? You don't know where he had settled. So maybe there's a bit of that. Maybe I'm missing the romance in life. And maybe I'm afraid of the romance in life. It's so funny because romance as a genre has never been, like if I watch movies, rom-com and all that, right? I haven't watched it for years. It's not a genre that I pick up, and it's not a genre that I gravitate to for so long, for more than 10 years. When I first got to Glastonbury, the Airbnb had Netflix, right? The first thing I watched was romance, which was very strange, but it was like, oh, okay. And it was sad. It was a bittersweet ending. I come back, and actually that's the only genre that I've been watching.
It makes me think of how Glastonbury is the heart chakra of Gaia. And it feels like being there touched you, touched your heart, opened, softened in a way.
Probably. I know it lifted a lot of things, and I know that I felt very free.
What was it that brought forth that free feeling? What unblocked within you or what opened within you?
Maybe because the energy is so healing, or maybe because the energy is so neutral. There was, in some ways, or in many ways, that I felt like it was a very safe space, a very safe container to just be myself, whatever that is, whatever, it's just in that moment to do whatever I feel like doing, or to be whatever I feel like I want to be. And of course, there were moments where I felt like I need to withdraw because the fears come up. There were moments where I felt like, really expanded, like I'm just part of this world and part of the energy that's in that space. I felt very open and receptive to whatever comes, which is not something that I feel back here. I think it's because of the energy there. I don't know whether the word is settled or is safe, maybe a bit of both. I felt like even if there wasn't anybody else around, I'd be okay. But I don't feel the same way back here. What I'm trying to do is just allow the emotions to happen, allow the emotions to flow,
Yeah.
and not fight it. I think that's one of the things that's important. It's like a cleansing. If we don't allow ourselves to clear and we don't allow ourselves to cleanse, you can't move on. No, there's no space or purity to move forward. I'm less afraid of feeling, allowing it to happen, and just letting it run its course. When the space is clear, it's allowing that to flow lah. I mean, back to the Avalon bit, maybe I don't know whether there's a portion that I have to let go and what Avalon reminds me of, or what
Yeah.
Avalon is for me, or is it always there because it's there as a reminder or a remembrance or something? And then is that necessary as I move forward? I'm not quite sure yet. I think I'm still in question about what Avalon represents for me. And maybe that's why I need to go back to Glastonbury. I feel like I need to go back to the land. It's not
Yes.
and not so much the space, but the land. And there's
Yeah.
something about the land, right? In those areas that seem to feel very grounded. Like you feel like you belong.
Yeah. When you think back of your time in our pilgrimage, what are some of your fondest memories?
I think it's the connecting bits, just being with people. Because I tend to, in my older years, I tend to withdraw internally more than I am external. And I tend to walk away from people. I mean, there are people that I connect with and I am with, right? But equally, there's also like when I see a lot of people, I tend to walk away because I don't feel like I want to be in a space with so many people. I think the connecting bits is something that was nice. I'd like to say the kitchen bits. My kitchen has always been something that's a very big part of my life. It has been. I haven't been actually in the kitchen cooking for a very long time. So yeah, so that was nice. I don't spend that much time. I don't spend as much time as I used to
Mm.
in the kitchen. Definitely the being in the open and nature. I think that's something that I feel I don't really quite have here. You know, like even though there are open spaces and I can be in a park, right? It's not the same. It doesn't feel I'm connected. I don't know what it is about our energy here. Seriously. Like whether it's Avalon or in Glastonbury, even though there's a lot of people around, or even though
Yeah.
there's people around, I feel like I'm alone. It's very much like when I was at the Golden Temple in Amritsar. It was exactly Amritsar was full of people. Everyone was circumambulating the tank. But I felt like I was the only one there. Like in yoga, we talk about energy and connecting with the divine. It's almost like that connection, and there's
Yes.
nothing else around it. So it's like that. So that's an aspect that I feel very alive with actually. Of course, in terms of spaces, the tour is still the space that I would always go to lah. The word magic comes up. I don't know why it's about magic, but maybe something that's magical. It's almost like Glastonbury's like this. It's just magical. Maybe it's the magical aspects that I kind of miss in life.
Along with the tour, were there other sacred sites that stands out to you or touched you a bit more deeply?
They all do, in very different ways. So
Mm.
the feeling is very free in the tour. I felt Stonehenge and Avebury were very similar in a way, very ancestral, no? The spaces felt very ancient, ancestral, wise. It's almost like I'm connected to a wisdom. You can't explain where this wisdom comes from. And you don't have to know. You don't have all the answers, but you have all the answers. Camelot, obviously,
Mm.
because I'm so connected, right? So the stories in Cadbury Castle, walking that spiral, the trees and the energy, the forest, being out there in nature is like part of nature. It reminds me that we are all part of this in the world. We're not different from nature, but we're like an element in nature.
How would you say the spirit of the land or Lady Avalon inspired or touched you or showed you about yourself?
There's a purity in
Mm.
this land and the energy that is very innocent. It has that sense of innocence in it. And I think that that is part of the journey of reclaiming that purity.
Going back to the very first question, if someone were to ask you, what is Glastonbury and what is Avalon, how might you relate to that?
I would say they're sacred spaces, not just externally, but when you connect with it, they're very sacred spaces within yourself. Within myself, there's a purity that I think I have lost and I haven't connected with for a very long time. But it's allowing that to emerge, maybe in a different form than what I know of it, and to not have to know of it. Avalon has two things, right? One is the energy of purity, and the other is the energy of the dragons. And the energy of the dragons is about the word righteousness comes up, courage and warriors come up. And that's what it represents for me. So maybe these are the things that I want to explore a little bit further.
You know, when you speak of purity, it reminds me of my own relationship with Lady Avalon because it's, for me, it's truth, discerning all of the fluff, the distractions, all of the veils, the Maya, so that what's left is purity. And that is truth because it feels very gentle and it's love. How do you feel you've been changed after being touched by the experience of the pilgrimage, the group, the energy of Lady Avalon?
I'm definitely more in touch with myself and my feelings. I don't run away from them. I don't try and stop them. I've always been very calm, I suppose. At some point in my life, I just became very calm. So because I've been watching so much of this genre that I have not watched in my life, right, or so many years, right, it's either I'm missing it so much or there's something in it that's pulling me, right, and there's something in those lessons that have to be learned. I'm not quite clear what they are at the moment, but at least I'm not walking away from them, neither am I shunning them. The one thing that I said about to love and be loved, right? There's probably something that I would say I'm holding on to, but there's an area that I'm exploring. What does to love and be loved mean for me within myself? And also that yearning for the love and be loved externally. So it's the understanding that a little bit deeper. Is that about aloneness or is that about the fear of loneliness? Is that about just feeling myself? Or is that about really wanting something external? It's so interesting as I say this, the word touch comes up. Maybe touch is
Mm,
something that's important. That's why maybe last 2 years I seem to want to do more in the movement area, the body area. Maybe there's something in the somatics that I haven't in the body that I have either haven't embraced or I haven't let go of. Yeah, and that's an exploration I guess I need to go to.
mm. Do you have any recommendations, any reflections, any words of wisdom for future pilgrims to Avalon, to Glastonbury, who are, walking the same path, the same spirals that you did, that we did?
If you're walking this journey in your life, right, I feel it's a journey that we all go through in life and we will all walk. It's a matter of sooner or later. I would say do it sooner than later. When you can connect deeply and really deeply with who you really are inside your own truth, your own innocence, your own purity, whatever that means for you, there's a sense of freedom that comes with it, acceptance and no expectation of what lies ahead of you. I think the journey of uncertainty is the journey of life. Life is uncertain. How we embrace that and how we walk that journey requires a groundedness and the courage that you won't find externally, but only within. If you have the calling, if you have the courage to do this, then do it sooner.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Trudy.